Welcome back to another episode of Five Ever Timepieces, the podcast where we break down the biggest trends, updates, and a few stories from the world of luxury watches. I'm Chris, and if you're someone who dreams about owning the perfect Submariner, GMT Master 2, or even having a Daytona sitting on your wrist, then, well, today's episode, this is definitely going to be for you. Today I'm talking about a pivotal change going on over at Rolex, the brand's recent decision to relax their quote unquote exhibition only watch display policies, and what this means for collectors, what it means for enthusiasts, and what it means for the overall luxury watch market. Now, this shift to me, it coincides with the inevitable happening, and that being the shortening of waiting lists, something that has plagued Rolex buyers for years. So let's dig into this major development and unpack its potential implications. Now, let's start with some context for those who might be newer to the world of Rolex. For decades, Rolex has dominated the luxury watch industry basically with its incredible precision, its iconic designs, and basically their undeniable status symbol appeal. However, with that dominance, it comes a unique challenge. That being demand has constantly and consistently outpaced the supply. Rolex operates with a production model that prioritizes quality and exclusivity. However, they do produce roughly a million watches a year, to which sounds like a lot to like the average person, but when you consider the size of Rolex's global customer base, it's not a lot. This mismatch right here between supply and demand has created what can only be described as a Rolex phenomenon. Long waiting lists for popular models, and in many cases, you have inflated prices on the secondary market, sometimes two or triple the amount of retail. For example, a a Daytona that retails for about $15,000 could easily fetch $30,000 or more on the gray market, at least during peak demand periods. To address this issue and maintain exclusivity, um, Rolex did introduce this exhibition only displays just a few years ago. These displays, they did allow customers to come in and try on popular models, but the watches themselves, they weren't for sale. They were essentially just showroom pieces, which gave buyers a feel for the watches while maintaining that Rolex scarcity. However, for many customers and first-time buyers, this created a frustrating experience with them. Yes, sure, you can admire the watch, but nope, you cannot buy it. Now let's fast forward to today. Rolex has started to relax these rules, allowing for certain exhibition only pieces to be sold under specific circumstances. This change right here, it comes as waiting lists for some models have, in other words, noticeably shortened. Industry insiders report that wait times for some professional sports watches like the Submariner or the Rolex Explorer have pretty much halved since their peak back in 2002, shrinking by 50% or more. For the other less popular models, though, the waiting lists have almost disappeared entirely. What do you guys think's driving this change right here? What do you guys think? Well, I feel there are just a few key factors that are driving this. One of the biggest reasons behind this shift is likely Rolex's increase in production capacity. Now, Rolex hasn't publicly disclosed any major expansions, but there have been hints that the brand has optimized its production processes to better meet the demand. Additionally, the secondary market, the gray market, where you can find watches being resold for higher premiums, even that has cooled down significantly in the past few months. For years, though, the gray market has played a massive role in driving not just demand, but maintaining it. With customers buying Rolexes not for personal enjoyment, but to flip them for a profit. With economic uncertainty and market corrections and back in 2020 and 23, we've seen pretty much retail prices stabilize, which has helped normalize somewhat the demand for the pieces. Lastly, let's not overlook the role of the everyday consumer behavior. During the pandemic, luxury goods saw a huge surge in demand as people shifted spending away from travel and experiences into purchasing watches. But now that life has pretty much returned to normal over the past few years, spending has since basically rebalanced. This has likely eased a little bit of pressure on Rolex's supply chain. The relaxation of the exhibition only rules is another crucial piece of the puzzle. This policy shift right here could signal confidence on Rolex's part. They seem to believe that their supply chain can, match the demand now, allowing them to enhance the customer experience without sacrificing Rolex's exclusivity. What's particularly interesting though is how this aligns with Rolex's brand philosophy. On one hand, they are a brand built on scarcity and admiration and aspirations. Um, but you don't just walk into a store and buy one of these Submariners on a whim. But on the other hand, they're also neatly aware that frustrating their customers with endless waiting lists can eventually have a negative long term impact. So by relaxing these rules, it's a delicate balancing act, and I'd argue to say it's kind of a smart move. So what does this mean for collectors and enthusiasts though? For one, it makes the buying process just a little bit less stressful. It makes it just a little bit less daunting. If you've been waiting years for your dream watch, this policy change and the shorter wait times, I'm pretty sure is great news for you. It also means that some models that were previously unattainable might be within reach for some first time buyers. However, it is worth noting that this could also impact the secondary market. If availability increases within these pieces, we could see gray market premiums continue to shrink, especially for the less popular models. You have investors who bought Rolexes purely as an asset class. This right here could be a potential wake up call for them to rethink their strategies when purchasing these pieces. But let's not forget, Rolex is still Rolex. The brand status and desirability is not going anywhere. So even with shorter waiting times and relaxed exhibition policies, certain models, the Daytona, the Sky Dweller, and the Day Date, these will more than likely remain incredibly exclusive. This isn't the end of the chase. It's just a it's just a recalibration. No pun intended. But Rolex's decision could also ripple across the entire luxury watch industry. Other brands like Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, and even Omega might take note of how Rolex is adapting to, the ever-changing market conditions. Could we see similar policy shifts from some of these brands? It's possible. There's also an opportunity here for ADs. There's opportunity for authorized dealers. And that's if Rolex models are more readily available and customers have a better experience in store, dealers could see increased foot traffic and begin to build stronger relationships with their clientele and develop new relationships with new clientele. At the end of the day, Rolex's move to relax their exhibition only policies and shorten waiting lists is a win win for both the brand and the customers. This is surely to enhance the accessibility without diluting exclusivity. And it's going to eventually show how a powerhouse like Rolex isn't afraid to adapt to the market. Well, I'm not going to keep talking you guys' head off. That's going to be it for today, for this episode of Five Ever Timepieces. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And as always, I love to hear your thoughts. Do you think these changes will make it easier to buy your dream Rolex? Or do you think this signals a broader shift in the luxury watch market? Drop your comments. Subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast. Stay tuned for more episodes where we explore the stories that make timepieces timeless. Until next time, you guys, keep your watches wound and your passions ticking.